He's a tough street-fighting lawyer with the highest ratings for honesty and integrity. He's here to answer your legal questions and get you the help you need. You're listening to The Legal Lowdown with your lawyer, Joe Ingram of Joe Ingram Law. Joe Ingram has more than 20 years' experience fighting for his clients here in the state of Alabama. Joe's focus is criminal defense and family law. You don't have to face your legal issue alone. You've got Joe Ingram on your side. In case of sensitive legal matters, you can always reach out directly to Joe at joeingramlaw.com and arrange for a private consultation. And now, Alabama's defender of the defenseless, protector of the people, and all-around good guy, Joe Ingram.
All right. You're listening to The Legal Lowdown with Joe Ingram, your Alabama lawyer on WERC 105.5 in Birmingham, WBHP up in Huntsville, and WRTR in Tuscaloosa. We're going to go straight to our first guest today because you are in for a treat for an interview. We have Dr. Robert Paul that's going to join us in just a second. He is the Vice President of Focus on the Family. He is a licensed counselor for marriages. And Dr. Paul, are you with us, sir?
I am indeed.
Dr. Paul, thank you for your time today.
Hey, it's a pleasure being with you, Joe.
Dr. Paul, are you on your vacation?
No, I'm not.
Okay, I thought I saw something in an email exchange that said you were on vacation this week. That's why I was asking.
No, I'm here and I'm working.
Okay, you're working. All right. Well, Dr. Paul, for our guest out there, I'm going to say some information about you, and then I'm going to start some questions with you. So you've been a counselor for many, many years. You vice president of Focus on the Marriage Institute, Focus on the Family. You've co-authored roughly 6 books, and I've read some information about your books and looked at your website for your practices. I believe y'all are in 4 states. Is that correct?
Yeah, we have centers in 4 states in Missouri, Michigan, Texas, and Arizona.
Yeah. Okay. So, Dr. Paul, tell Conservative Talk Radio in Alabama, and when I say conservative, Dr. Paul, I mean we are in the Deep South. We're in the Bible Belt, sir. Tell them a little bit about you and your background and your practice, sir.
All right. Well, I like to, a little bit tongue-in-cheek, tell people that my wife and I have been happily married for 15 years. And last October, we celebrated our 45th wedding anniversary. So it was really just those first 30 years that we found personally challenging. But my wife did lead me to the Lord just before we got married. And I have been growing, and we've both been growing spiritually. And we had plenty of good times in those first 30 years as we were raising our 4 children. But there were plenty of challenges along the way that I know the people that we work with today can very much relate to, because there are moments when marriage can be very challenging. And there are also ways in which the Lord wants to bless us greatly through the relationship. And it's taken us a while to figure it out, but we've gotten to a point now where our relationship is not only thriving, but for the last 8 years, my wife goes on the road with me, and we do marriage events all over the country, all over the world, really, and do trainings and so forth. So it's amazing that we've actually gotten to the point where things have gotten that well. Along the way, I got connected. I've had a lot of experiences, a lot of opportunities to develop ministry. I got connected to Gary Smalley and to his son Greg back 27 years ago, and was led to help develop a marriage counseling program for couples in crisis, now called Hope Restored. And we, over the 27 years, have served over 16,000 couples from all over the world and have an incredibly high success rate. And Joe, we just keep learning. I mean, everything that we have been learning about God and his design for marriage and what works and what doesn't, we've then been able to, not only help couples who are struggling seriously in the relationship, but then realize that those those principles and tools that God has developed since He developed us, apparently, work even better for couples who aren't in crisis. So we've written books, and we've gotten enrichment events and things like that for couples who are just wanting to go from good to great, to take those same principles and tools that we've learned and share them with as many people as we possibly can. So yeah, and I've been a therapist now for 35 years, and God has been incredibly patient with me as I've learned and grown and figured out how to be more the man that He created me to be, and just been able to serve Him well for a long time.
We're talking with Dr. Paul on Focus on the Family. He's a licensed practice counselor. Dr. Paul, when you went to school for your education, did you ever envision that you would be doing the level of marriage counseling that you do, or did you go into your vocation with some other area of expertise? Does that make sense what I'm asking, sir?
Yes, it does. And it leads me to an interesting story. I didn't grow up in a Christian family at all, and I was pretty wayward for a while, and really was seeking to find my way to something that was more solid, more healthy. I didn't necessarily want it to be Christianity, but God found me, made Himself real to me, and I moved in that direction. But I really had a rough road that I seem to need to follow. So I'm actually a 2-time college dropout. I did get to the point where, while I was trying, I guess I should say this, Joe, one of the things that's true about men in my family is that we frequently have a hard time figuring out what we want to do when we grow up. So we don't necessarily take a nice straight route. And there was a period of 9 years when I became a college professor, and I had various students that were concerned that they were taking the 5-year route instead of the 4-year route, and I could just say to them very easily, hey, guys, relax. You got nothing on me. I got my bachelor's degree 16 years after I got my high school diploma, and my mother had pretty much given up on the idea I would ever graduate, but God got hold of me and moved me into ministry, and I wasn't sure at first if He was taking me into a counseling ministry or a pastoral ministry directly, so I made sure I had enough education to be able to do either, but it got clearer and clearer that He was moving me into the area of counseling and therapy. I didn't know that at all that when Greg and I even got together, Greg Smalley and I, back in some of the 27 years ago this month, it was in June of 1999, we had no idea that what we're doing now was what God had in mind. We just really thought we were solving an immediate problem that was right in front of us. And along the way, God kept opening doors and asking us if we would go, and we just kept saying yes. And now we're at where we're at today and have 100 therapists working with us, and we have done quite a lot. But I tell you, it's not because either one of us are all that brilliant. It's just that God is amazing, and we've continued to be available to go where He asked us to go.
Wow, 100 counselors. Hey, Dr. Paul, let me ask you this. When you said that you got together with Smalley in 1999, what was it that you said that you framed it as we knew this was what we were supposed to do? I mean, was it something that you had seen in your practice, that you found a niche? Was there, I mean, what led you down this path for where you are now? What was it?
Well, it's an interesting story that you're asking for. I don't get asked this very often, but I'm happy to share it. I had a private practice where I just saw people on a weekly, hourly basis. I was a professor, and I also had some specialized training in doing what's called intensive therapy, where we would work with individuals at a retreat center for multiple days, multiple hours in consecutive days. So maybe like 9 to 5 for 5 straight days, working with individuals on whatever they wanted to bring as a very specialized type of counseling. The arrangement I had with who was my mentor actually ended after 5 years of that training, and I just put it aside. It just so happened that Dr. Greg Smalley's wife, Erin, entered our graduate school and became a graduate student of mine. And I was telling her about this specialized training I had, and she thought it was fascinating. She said, "You've got to meet my husband, Greg." Well, I knew Greg's father, Gary, from a distance. I didn't know he lived 50 miles from my house, but I'd seen him at a Promise Keepers event. I'd watched one of his Hidden Keys to Lasting Relationships videos, and I'd seen him somewhere else. I can't even remember where. So I knew who he was, and I didn't know anything about his family. But then his daughter-in-law becomes a student of mine, and she says, "You got to meet my husband, Greg." So we connected, and Greg was getting ready to open up an outpatient clinic next to his father's ministry. And when he heard about what I was doing, he went to me and he said, "Hey, Bob, my dad has had this problem in ministry for 25 years, and we've never known what to do with it. And I'm wondering if you could help us solve it." Well, the problem was that people would read one of Gary's books or hear one of his videos or see him live somewhere, and they would love what he was sharing, but when they would try to put it into practice, they would crash and burn, and they couldn't figure out why it wasn't working for them. So they call up from all over the country or all over the world and ask if they could come to Gary's office and work with Gary to get personalized help to figure out why this wasn't working. And Gary was very busy, brilliant man, miss him terribly. But he wasn't really called to counseling. That wasn't his main thing. He was a speaker. He was a writer. He was just, he's a pastor. He was trained to be a pastor. So for 25 years, he more or less, except in some very unusual cases, would say, "No, I'm not available to do that." So Greg said, "Bob, could you help us figure out a way to say yes to these people that are calling?" And I thought, okay, maybe that's what that 5 years of specialized training was about. I worked with individuals, but certainly we could tweak it to work with couples. So Greg and I and the team that he and God had been assembling sat down and we just said, okay, here's what I know. How do we make this work for couples? And we started designing this program that has become what we have now 27 years later. And it really wasn't, it was just an interesting set of circumstances that God orchestrated that was pretty perfect to accomplish what ultimately we now see as his will.
Yeah. We're talking with Dr. Paul, Focus on the Family. And so let me ask you something, because I believe, and I know that you believe this, we all have a destiny and we all have a vocation or a purpose in life, and some of us find it faster than others, or it finds us over a period of time. But you know what I heard from you that I think that I try to educate and model for my clients is you said yes, you didn't say no. If you had said no, you wouldn't be where you are today. All your experiences, and somebody came along in your path and in your journey, and then y'all put this together, and look what you've built, right?
Very much so. It's interesting because one of the things, being a person of faith that has an active, dynamic relationship with Christ, is to see the evidence of his sovereignty everywhere. I look back at the experiences in my life and how God was setting me up to do what he called me to do. And sometimes it's very positive, growth, producing an enjoyable experience. And other times it's more challenging things, the difficult we've had, like, for instance, the marriage difficulties that my wife and I have had. They have become a very important component in the story that God was weaving through our lives by being willing to say yes and continue to learn and continue to grow and continue to find my way to trust God, to just trust that he knows what he's doing and that he created me on purpose with a purpose. And I tell this to people all the time, Joe, that, there's not a single person that God created, contrary to what many believe, where when he created them, he went, I kind of missed on that one. Never. Every single person that he creates, he goes, wow, that's good. I did good there. And he's got a plan in mind or plans in mind for each of us. And the only question is, are we willing to lean in with him and listen and walk it out and figure out through the good times and the bad times how it all is available to be used by God if we're willing to bring what he gave us to bring to a world that desperately needs hope, that is struggling through so many of the hardships that are true in this fallen world, to be able to bring some light into the darkness. So my journey is a dramatic one, but I don't think that it's anything special. I don't think it's anything more, and certainly not less than others. It's me just wanting to hear from God. What have you got me here for, and how is this circumstance supposed to be a part of it?
Yeah. Dr. Paul, let me ask you, in all your experience of counseling and everybody you've ever worked with, when they come in, did you like to see the couples together first, or did you like to do an individual session first with either the husband or the wife and get a case history? How did you approach it? How do you approach it?
Well, the way we work now, we actually never meet with them first. We always meet with them together, and we want to hear each of their stories. And I guess I should set up with you in the Hope Restored program, which is our counseling program for couples in crisis. We really do work with people who are in a lot of pain. Matter of fact, there's only one question, Joe, they have to answer yes to for us to be willing to work with them. And this is the question. If God was to work a miracle in your marriage, would you accept it? And that miracle could need to be the magnitude of the parting of the Red Sea for all we care. And it doesn't even matter whether they even believe a miracle is possible or can see the way it could be, there could be a miracle. The question is this: if God actually intervened and showed you a way to get to a place that you could both feel great about, because that is the definition of our success. We are not interested in helping people endure misery or mediocrity as if that would glorify God. No, God wants us to thrive. He wants us to both feel great. So our definition of a great marriage, which the miracle would be, is a relationship that both people love and both people love the direction it's headed. And it's not a requirement that they love the marriage for the same reason as each other, as long as they both love it. That's the target we're shooting at. If God worked a miracle of that magnitude, would you accept it and keep going forward? And if the answer is yes, we don't care how unlikely it seems, bring it. We will work with you. And I will tell you, as good as my team is, as highly trained as they are, I don't have a single person on my team that does miracles, but every one of us serves a God who does. So we see mountain-moving miracles take place in people's marriages before our eyes every single week. It is astounding.
That's good. Hey, this next question I'm setting you up for is probably easy for you to answer, but I think it's important for those that are listening to this show. Do you have those that come in and they say, Dr. Paul, whatever the issue is, whether it's infidelity, whether it's an alcohol abuse program issue, substance abuse, maybe they have a gambling addiction, maybe they have a porn addiction. Do they say, I'm a Christian. I believe in God. I believe in the Bible. And does this qualify for a biblical divorce to you? And it's almost like they're asking you for permission to do the divorce. Have you ever had that happen, that question?
Oh gosh, all the time. Here's one of the realities of the work we do. We are very, very clear that it is not our place to tell people that they need to stay together or to tell people they need to get apart. That's not our job. Our job is to, and what we do is we will never recommend somebody gets a divorce. That's not to say that we might not think that would be a good idea, although we never put anything past God's ability to redeem and restore. But it's not our place to do that. What we do say is that before you decide what you're going to do on this, we highly recommend that you consult with your Lord directly and ask him what you should do. Because the last thing I want is them to have gone apart from what God would have wanted for them, standing before him on the day of judgment, and he asked, why did you not listen to me? And they said, because Bob told me to. I'm not going to be there to be able to take the heat. They are going to, every one of us is personally responsible for the choices and the decisions we made. So I want to encourage people to do that thoughtfully and responsibly. And I can understand why people would get a divorce. There's a lot of circumstances I've seen where it makes complete sense to me. And yet I've watched God work miracles in those people's lives to where their marriage went from completely hopeless to hopeful and thrilling. That I don't put anything past God, but I want every one of us to be personally responsible for that which he's put before us and the leading of our lives. I want to encourage people to not make those decisions apart from God. I know that I need a Savior more than anything to save me from me and my foolishness. And when I try to operate apart from God and take over the reins, of my life, I'm setting myself up to make bad choices. So I want to make sure that my Lord is guiding me step by step, day by day, and that's all we encourage people to do. There's lots of situations that are challenging. Now, we are also, I think one of the reasons that we are as successful as we are is that I consider our ministry to be what's called person-centered. And here's how that plays. For us, the well-being, the ultimate well-being of the individual always takes precedence over the well-being of the marriage without exception. And that's because, Jesus came to die for people, not marriages. And if the people get destroyed or get lost for the sake of the marriage, you've lost everything that matters. The marriage isn't eternal, the people are. So we want to make sure that if there's really dangerous, destructive things going on, that at the very least you pull back and get yourself to a place where you're healthy, and that you're in a situation that's promoting health. That doesn't necessarily have to be a permanent decision, but at least an eye toward the health of the individual. The well-being of the individual is always the most important thing to us. So, sometimes there's situations where domestic violence has occurred. And believe me, I've been around situations and know of situations where people lost their lives through domestic violence. And I know that's not God's will. So, we've got an eye toward that. Addiction can be devastating to people, both in their health and well-being and that of others.
Yeah. Hey, Dr. Paul, we got to go to news and weather. This is fascinating conversation, folks. We'll be back after news and weather. Dr. Paul, you don't want to miss the rest of this conversation. Hang on just a second, sir.
You're listening to The Legal Lowdown with your lawyer, Joe Ingram. If you need confidential legal help off air, reach out to Joe at joeingramlaw.com. Stay tuned for more. Joe will be right back after this break for news and weather.
Flat Fee Real Estate of Birmingham. What sets us apart from other real estate brokerages? Flat Fee Real Estate of Birmingham is a full-service real estate brokerage that can significantly reduce the amount you pay to sell your home. There are no high commission fees here. Our brokerage was established right here in Birmingham over 10 years ago, and they remain locally owned and operated. Here you will find agents with over 50 years of combined service and experience, and with excellent performance, whether listing or buying with us. We are there with you every step of the way, so you feel confident you've made the right decision when it comes to your home. Give us a call today, Flat Fee Real Estate of Birmingham.
You're listening to The Legal Lowdown with Joe Ingram. Joe is a 20-year veteran of the Alabama courts specializing in criminal defense and family law. If you need a private legal consultation, email Joe at joeingramlaw.com. And now, welcome back to The Legal Lowdown with Joe Ingram.
All right, you're back for the second part of the first hour of The Legal Lowdown with Joe Ingram, your Alabama lawyer on WERC 105.5 in Birmingham, WBHP up in Huntsville, and WRTR Tuscaloosa. Today, we're in the middle of a wonderful interview with Dr. Robert Paul. He is a licensed professional counselor, and he is the vice president of an organization called Focus on the Family, and they have developed a very, very niche specialized practice for saving marriages. They have centers across 4 states. They have 100 counselors, and we are so privileged to get to spend another about 25 minutes with Dr. Paul. And Dr. Paul, right before we went to the break, we were talking about people that are in serious domestic violence issues, and you were talking about being person-centered, and I know what you meant by that. That if you really feel like your life is in danger, that you may have to end the marriage because you don't want to die, right?
Well, and it doesn't necessarily mean end the marriage, although that might be what you feel led to do. It may just mean you need to pull away and get to a safe place and, wait to see if and when God will change the situation to make it safe for you to return. But again, whether you make it permanent or whether you just have a separation and make it temporary, we really want people to be personally responsible for that call and not have somebody else make a decision for you like you're a child and you can't, manage your own life. I'm gonna treat everybody I work with like they're a full functioning adult capable of making responsible adult decisions.
Yeah. Hey, Dr. Paul. So let me ask you this, because our time's really short today. So do you ever have those that come in and when y'all do your real intensive therapy and y'all have a 3-day session, y'all offer a 4-day session, I think you even have a 5-day session, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. And so I had a client one time right before COVID, and he did not want to get a divorce. Now, his wife had checked out. I mean, she had already filed for divorce. And he came to me and he said, Joe, I found this program. And it was similar to yours. It wasn't yours, because we're in Alabama. You're up in the Missouri and the heartland of America is what I call it. And it's the same kind of program. It was like a 3-day intensive seminar to save the marriage. And it's not cheap. And when I say that, I'm not being disrespectful. I'm just saying that, they're paying for your time for 3 intensive days working with somebody highly educated like you. And so anyway, I reached out to the lawyer for the wife. I said, hey, my client really doesn't want a divorce. It's been a good marriage. He's paid for this intensive counseling session for a weekend. Will she at least go to it before we call it a day? And she calls back and she says, she'll go, but there's no way she's going to change her mind. And so they go, they do the 3 days, and he no more gets home. And on Monday morning, they had already sent me the agreement and said, this is it, she's out. So I guess that what I'm trying to get at are there a couple that comes to you where one or the other is like, I'm going to do this just out of respect for the marriage, but I'm gone. And do you see those, and do those ever change, or do you sit there, look at them, and know, you know what, there's nothing in the world that's going to save this?
Okay, so that's why we ask the miracle question before they come, because we're trying to ferret out if the person has already decided they're not open to God, and they're not open to seeing any possible way of doing it differently. I don't want to waste their time, energy, or money, and I don't want to waste our time, energy, and money. So we're just saying, if you're not open to a miracle, do what you're going to do. But if now the reality is, though, we have people that lie, and they've been getting so much pressure. I mean, I know you probably find that hard to imagine, but people lie sometimes, and we have people that have getting so much pressure from family and friends that they say they're open to a miracle when they're not, and they come and and if they're working with me, they basically say that, I'll say, so what I'm understanding is that you really weren't honest. You really aren't open to a miracle. And you're just kind of here under false pretenses in order to shut those up that are giving you pressure. And then we work differently at that point. I'm not going to try and force someone to do something they don't want to do. That's not my place. I'll likely at that point work with the spouse and say, okay, so here's the reality of what you're facing. What are your options? How do we help you get to a better place? Now, I'll tell you a story, though. We have things that happen that are pretty dramatic, because God does miracles in people's hearts if they're anywhere close to him. So here's one of the more dramatic stories we've ever had. We had a couple show up, and that was the situation. The guy really said, he had his arms crossed. We were in a group. There was 5 couples, and he and his wife were one of the couples, and we went around the room. So what are you here for? And, what would a miracle look like? And he said, I want you to know that I've already decided, and there's nothing you can do that's going to change my mind. And I'm only here because everybody pressured me so much that I had to just say yes to shut him up. So, first of all, his wife was devastated because she didn't realize that was the case. She thought he was open to a miracle, but he just sat there with his arms crossed, and and we just said, okay. So it was painful for the whole group, because everyone was kind of pulling for everybody else, and they were all searching for a miracle personally. And his wife was devastated. I mean, she was just crushed that this is the situation she found herself in. So we worked with everybody else, and we worked with her all week, and we just left him alone, and he just sat there. And it was gut-wrenching. And I'll tell you, this was a 4-day group experience. At the end of the day, Thursday, he hadn't shifted at all. And it was hard for everybody. Everybody's heart was hurting for her particularly, and for them, and for wanting to see hope in the situation. So, and it was hard for me, because I left and thought about it. Me and my co-therapist, all weekend long, did I miss something, whatever. So anyway, Monday morning comes. That was the program ended Thursday. Monday morning comes, and unexpectedly we get a phone call. And it was this couple, and the guy was calling, and he wanted to tell us the story of their 8-hour drive home. He basically said, I was sitting in the car driving, and my wife was sobbing in the passenger seat, and this went on for several hours. And then I reached over at one point, and I grabbed her hand, and I put it on my chest. And I said to her, do you feel that? This guy was, by the way, a guy that was a few words, so he didn't say a lot. But he did say that. Do you feel that? And she grabbed her hand back, and like for heaven's sakes, haven't you caused me enough pain? Why are you teasing me now? And he said, no. He grabbed her hand back. He says, do you feel that? And she said, what? He said, it's beating. And he said, the Lord has spoken to me, and he revealed to me that I was wrong, and that he wanted to meet us, and that I'm in. And he had been listening apparently, and he had been, and God really spoke to him. And so anyway, so they wanted to call up and tell us what an amazing weekend they'd had, and a mind-blowing transformation. But here's what really got fun, Joe. A year later to the day, all of a sudden, unexpectedly, two of them are at our doorstep. They came in and they Branson, where it took place. They were back because they wanted to celebrate the 1-year anniversary of the complete transformation of their marriage. And we were just obviously, the streamers were going off and the party poppers were going. We were having a celebration with them. We had no idea they were coming. We had no idea what happened. But the reality is, can those kind of miracles take place? You bet. Our Lord is really on the move for every human being on this planet. Every single human being on this planet is his child. And he wants us all to thrive. And he won't hesitate to enter into a heart that opens. And that guy apparently opened his heart, and it just helped me to see that just because a miracle might not happen when they're in our presence doesn't mean God's done working. And that just happened to be pretty quickly afterwards. But we've had those kind of experiences there, because we try and sort out whether someone's really ready to be in our program or not. We don't see that as often, but we have certainly over 27 years seen plenty of those.
Wow. We're talking with Dr. Bob Paul, Focus on the Family. He runs a marriage counseling intensive program, and they're in 4 states. Dr. Paul, I'm almost embarrassed to ask this question because it feels stupid now, but I want to ask it anyway. How do you know when a miracle's taken place? Or how would you describe that you know that a miracle's happened? Does that make sense, what I'm asking you, sir?
Yeah, and obviously it's hard to be completely specific with my answer, but I can tell you this. In the intensive program, the couples that we work with more often than not are hurting pretty bad. It's not at all uncommon for them to show up with divorce papers in hand, and they've heard somewhere that miracles occur at Hope Restored. So they come and they basically say, we're a mess. We've got the papers drawn up. The only thing they need to be is signed. But we're open to a miracle. So if a miracle doesn't happen by the end of the day, Thursday, we're signing the papers on Friday. No pressure. So, it's fairly intimidating. And I don't necessarily know what the heck to do with that other than to just trust God and keep walking forward and so forth. Well, it's amazing how many times we've been in a situation like that and they ended up tearing the papers up on Friday. That's a miracle. We also have our staff that are, we've got housekeeping staff and hospitality staff, the kitchen staff, because we have like an all-inclusive resort that we bring these people to, and we dote on them. All the staff that's there besides the therapist can feel the tension when they arrive on Sundays to start their intensive on Monday. And oftentimes they can't look at each other. We've got situations where they can't stay in the same room. Situations they can't stay in the same 4 walls, and we have to create special accommodations for them. So we see all of that. And what the staff reports, because they're not in the intensive seeing the therapy go on, they report how amazing it is to see the transformation over the week. And how common it is for couples who couldn't look at each other on Sunday be kissing and walking away hand in hand on Thursday or Friday. I mean, it's dramatic, and to have people be talking about how hopeful they are. Does that mean the story's over and they're done? No, but they have a vision for the future and a clear idea of what the path forward looks like that they now, with God's help, need to walk out. But we see those kind of transformations every single week. Matter of fact, probably been one of the biggest faith builders in my entire life, because I've been able to witness those kind of miracles so frequently that it would be almost impossible for me not to believe that God's real after I've witnessed that for so many years.
Okay. Dr. Paul, so let me ask you something really fast, because I got some questions I want to get to, and I only got about 12 minutes for you, sir.
Okay.
In these intensive sessions, you said they're like group sessions. So you're not
So-
you're not working necessarily one-on-one with just one couple. There may be more couples in an intensive session. Is that right?
Yeah, the 3-day program and the 5-day program are one couple with 1 to 2 therapists. The group program is 4 days, and it's 5 couples and 2 therapists.
All right. So
and everyone's in the room all together.
All right. So let me ask you that. So if I came with my spouse to this 4-day session, do the couples not feel uncomfortable like in an AA meeting? Like, I'm an alcoholic and I'm Joe and I'm here and I got an alcohol problem. Do they feel uncomfortable talking about their marriage issues with other people in the room, or is it acceptable because they know what they're coming into? Does that make sense, what I'm asking?
It can be both. The discomfort usually ends pretty quickly. Here's why the group program is as successful as it is. Many people question up front whether that makes any sense. Why in the world would I want to do this in a group? I got to be part of designing all of the programs, and for most people, the group is the best. And here's why. As I've worked with couples, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of couples in crisis for so many years, what I've discovered is that when you really get down to the core of what couples are struggling with, there's only a handful of issues, and we're all dealing with some version of the same thing. And even though we work one couple at a time, when you're sitting there and you're not on the hot seat and you don't have the spotlight on you, but you're seeing somebody else dealing with something that you didn't realize you could relate to until you heard it and go, oh, I feel that way, or yeah, I do that. Yeah, all of a sudden, you're able to do some of your work without having to be the one that's talking or being focused on. Honestly, Joe, one of the things that's helped my marriage over the years is that there's been many times when I was the therapist and I'm watching somebody who all of a sudden I realize is doing exactly what I do with my wife. And I go, oh my gosh, no wonder she hates that. That's horrible. And I'd come home that night and say, wow, I finally saw why you hate when I do this. I saw what it looks like. I'm so sorry. And just by watching it, It changed my marriage and for the better. That kind of experience is extremely common because, again, we all deal with just a handful of issues. And even though our circumstances might make us look very different from one another, when you get down to the core, it's amazing how much we have in common.
Hey, Dr. Paul, just go ahead and identify it because I've been a divorce lawyer for 24 years. What are the issues you're talking about that you see that are routine across all sections of the people and the populations you work with? Just name them. Come on.
Oh, there's several. I mean, most of us don't realize that creating a safe environment where we feel free to truly be who we were created to be is central. And it's amazing, when you ask somebody, do they feel safe in their marriage, almost without exception, the first thing they think of is physically. And obviously that's incredibly important. If someone doesn't feel that their body is going to be respected or be safe physically, that's huge. That's where the domestic violence situation can be so bad. But safety is far broader than that. You need to be able to feel safe mentally, that you could share ideas without fear of being ridiculed or told that you're stupid. To be safe spiritually, where you can share your walk with Christ or pray together. It's amazing how few people, we've heard that less than 15% of Christian couples actually regularly pray together because they don't feel safe sharing their spiritual walk with one another, sharing those spiritual experiences. And then last but not least, emotionally safe. Feel safe to have the feelings that you have when they might seem irrational or seem very different from what your spouse might be feeling. We're talking about safety in a very broad sense. And when we ask people, do you feel safe in all of those areas in your relationship? Most people don't, unfortunately. And we make that a priority. So that's one of the things. So there's elements of fear or anxiety that are defensiveness that are commonly very prevalent in relationships. Another issue is when we get into conflict. It's amazing how, we've got an enemy. Satan really knows how to mess with couples, and his goal is to get us squared off as adversaries. And I'll tell you, power struggles are probably one of the most insidious ways that he takes couples out. So what I'll ask people is, who is really the enemy of your marriage? And they say Satan, ultimately. And I said, when you get into conflict with your spouse, who do you see as the enemy? And they always point to each other. I'll say, the moment you square off as adversaries, the enemy's got you. And here's why. A house divided cannot stand. And marriage, by God's design, is a team sport. And when you're on the same team, there's only two possible outcomes. You both win or you both lose, period. End of story. And it's amazing how much Satan wraps couples up by trying to get them at odds with each other, like they're playing on opposite sides of the court, as opposed to playing, doubles tennis as teammates, where they win together or they lose together. If either one of you walk away from the relationship feeling like you lost, it's a loss for the team. And it took me years for God to help me to see that in my own marriage. And I realized that my wife can never be my adversary and me win. We have to be teammates, and therefore I adopted what we call a no-losers policy, so that I'm unaccepting of either one of us ever walking away feeling like we lost. So those are a couple of them. There's a bunch more, but as a matter of fact, Greg Smalley and I wrote a book called 9 Lies That Will Destroy Your Marriage, and the subtitle is, And the Truth That Will Save It and Set It Free. And we outline 9 of those places where, through the culture, and oftentimes, sadly, through the church, we've adopted beliefs that set us up to fail and that Satan has a heyday with.
Good stuff. That's powerful, Dr. Paul. Hey, Dr. Paul, let me ask you something. All right, 2 things that I think that are going to put me out of business in 20 years. There are some studies that by 2030, over 40% of the younger generations do not feel like they need to be married to have a successful life anymore. And 2, do you think that marriage is harder today than ever before because of all of the new technology over the last 20 years of social media and everything that we've had that we never had in our life? What do you think about that?
Okay, so let me start with the first one first. I am absolutely positive that marriage is designed by God to be the cornerstone of his economy and this world to be successful. And this is global. That healthy families are the absolute key to a culture being successful for the long haul. So, yeah, the fact that there is a trend away from marriage is not positive for our culture because we are bucking God's design, and I don't know any way to pull that off successfully. Secondly, to your second point, absolutely yes, life is more complicated than it's ever been. I remember as a kid what life in this world was like, what marriage was like. Things were so much simpler. As an example, when I was a kid, you got the news in the morning when you got the paper, and at night maybe if you watch the evening news. Today, we are being accosted by consistent, continual streams of information thrown at us, and now, just to make it extra complicated, you can never be sure what you're reading is even true. I mean, the level of complexity that couples have to deal with today, dealing with just normal life, has changed so much. It makes everything so much harder. So, yes, it's challenging. The good news is, though, we've found ways, as we understand God's design, it doesn't have to be that way, and we can find simple paths to success in the midst of all the craziness and confusion. So, but you are absolutely right. Both of those things are true.
All right. Dr. Paul, I have less than 2 minutes with you, sir. I'm going to give you the last word on what you want to tell Talk Radio of Alabama about you, your organization, or how to be a better parent, spouse, or in their marriage. Go, sir. You got the floor.
All right. Well, if you want information, more information on our Hope Restored program, it's simple to find us. Go to hoperestored.com. As was mentioned by Joe, there are costs involved, but the good thing is Focus on the Family is committed to try and make it available to you regardless of your ability to pay. So we have scholarships. I think we gave away like $1.5 million in scholarships last year. Wow. So just know that we want to do everything we can to get you the help you need, because this is a ministry, and that's our purpose, not to make money, but to help people to be successful. In addition to that, FocusOnTheFamily.com has a ton of resources. We have a whole marriage area as well as other things. We've got parenting tips and our Adventures in Odyssey program for kids, and many, many things that are out there to help families thrive, because that is our focus. We want the family to thrive. And the last thing I'll say is this. If you are struggling in any aspect of your life, because there's plenty of reasons to, because this world is nuts, we just know that God really does love us. And he wants us and our marriages and our families to thrive, and he will do whatever we allow him to do to take us to those places. So I am so thankful that I serve a God that is so devoted to us and loves us so much. And I just want to encourage you all listening to do everything you can to find your way to him and take advantage of every bit of what he wants to bestow on you.
Dr. Paul, thank you for your interview today. Thank you for your time, sir. It was a pleasure and an honor to speak with you. You have made my week. Thank you, sir. God bless you.
Awesome. You too.
All right. Thank you,
Take
Dr.
care.
Paul. All right. We'll be back after news and weather, top of the hour. Legal Lowdown, Joe Ingram.
You're listening to The Legal Lowdown with your lawyer, Joe Ingram. If you need confidential legal help off air, reach out to Joe at joeingramlaw.com. Stay tuned for more. Joe will be right back after this break for news and weather.
You know, here on The Legal Lowdown, we talk a lot about protecting what's yours. So let me tell you about the folks I trust to do exactly that around your home. Shelby Fence Company. For over 30 years, this is the name the Birmingham metro area has trusted for fence installation and repair, done right the first time. They do wood, aluminum, chain link, even agricultural fencing, both residential or commercial. They design it to fit your property. They build it with quality materials to stand up to Alabama weather, and they show you when they show up on time. They even remove and replace. Their crews are professional. The workmanship speaks for itself. So whether you're putting up a brand new fence or fixing the one that you've got, call the team I trust, Shelby Fence Company, at 205-664-1551, or you can find them at shelbyfencecompany.com. Tell them Joe sent you.
You're listening to The Legal Lowdown with Joe Ingram. Joe is a 20-year veteran of the Alabama courts specializing in criminal defense and family law. If you need a private legal consultation, email Joe at joeingramlaw.com. And now, welcome back to The Legal Lowdown with Joe Ingram.
All right, you're listening to The Legal Lowdown with Joe Ingram, your Alabama lawyer on WERC 105.5 in Birmingham, WBHPF in Huntsville, and WRTR in Tuscaloosa. The first hour was absolutely fascinating. Dr. Robert Paul, Focus on the Family, a marriage counselor that does it biblically, and it was fabulous. I enjoyed that interview. As always, we want to thank our sponsors of our show. Flat Fee Real Estate of Birmingham is a full-service real estate brokerage that can significantly reduce the amount you pay to sell your home. There are no high commission fees here. Their brokerage was established right here in Birmingham 10 years ago. They remain locally owned and operated. And here you're going to find agents with over 50 years of combined experience and excellent performance. Whether listing, buying with them, they're with you every step of the way. So you will feel confident you've made the right decision when it comes to selling your home. Give them a call today, Flat Fee Real Estate of Birmingham. I love Flat Fee Real Estate of Birmingham. Our other sponsor for the Legal Lowdown, we're proud to offer you, is Shelby Fence Company. They have over 30 years of expert fence installation. and repair across the Birmingham metro area. You can call them at 205-664-1551, or you can check them out, shelbyfencecompany.com, shelbyfencecompany.com. And yes, they put up a fence for me, and they're great. Okay, so for the second hour, we're going to talk about some local news and political information, talk about some breaking news this week. On Thursday, J.P. Morgan Bank announced 2 co-presidents. And these two are going to be competing to take over for the CEO, Jamie Dimon. And if you've listened to this program, you know how much I love Jamie Dimon. They're planning for his exit. And these are the 2 names that are going to be in the running to replace him. And I hate to think that he's leaving. And I was telling somebody yesterday, if I could have a dinner party with 3 people, Jamie Dimon, Elon Musk, Michael Jordan would be my 3 to sit down and have a dinner with one night. Man, I love Jamie Dimon. He is Wall Street. He has been so successful in his life and everything he has done. He crushes it. If you listen to his interviews, he tells it just like it is. He is an old school banker. He is phenomenal. So that's big news for me. Okay, other big news this week that we need to get to is I want to talk to you just for a minute for politics this week. There were some primaries up in New York, and there's been rumors that AOC is going to be the presidential Democratic nominee in 28. If they put Alexandria Cortez up, I'm going to tell you right now, the Republicans will carry 45 states. Let me tell you something, folks. Here's the scary part. Here's the scary part for just a second. Up in New York, all these socialist Democrats are winning the seats. That is crazy. And James Carville, who was the backbone of getting President Bill Clinton elected, has a podcast. And I watch it every week, even though I can't stand James Carville. And he's just an old crazy guy now. And he came out the other day and he said, what are these people doing? They're not Democrats, they're socialists. They should not even be seated in the Democratic caucus. When you have James Carville telling you that you're making a mistake of electing socialist, folks, you need to take heed to that warning. And it's going on in Seattle, Washington. It's going on in Los Angeles. It's going on in Washington, D.C. If you are from another country and you have not assimilated and accept that you are an American, you do not need to be in Washington making policies for us. And let me tell you something this week. One of these socialists up in New York, they want to abolish ICE, the police, and they refer to our veterans as war criminals. Are you kidding me? They have served our country. They do not assimilate. They're not a part of our society. Our forefathers fought for you to get here. And you should not be an elected official in D.C. making policy decisions for people that built this country if you do not believe in what we stand for. And so there's been a rash of socialists that are getting elected in our country. And it's scary, and at the same time, it's almost comical. How far can you go to the left? And here's what I don't understand. You have 2 distinct populations of people. You got the Gen Zs that are for the socialist, and then you have the older population that I'm talking about that are essentially retired or on Social Security. Both of these groups of people are for socialism. And I ask myself, why? Well, here's what it is. They hear the word free and they think, okay, free is good. They're just willing to be marginalized and accept whatever they receive in life. And they think capitalism is a bad word. There is nothing free in this world. We all pay for it. There's no such thing as a free lunch. So, as we wind down the month, we are watching the Supreme Court for the final decisions of the term. And there were two big decisions this week that came out on Thursday, and that gave two huge wins to President Trump. And guess what? My buddy, Justice Samuel Alito, he wrote both opinions. I love Samuel Alito. Now, I want you to know something. When you read Supreme Court decisions, you have to read the dissenting opinions. Joe, why would I want to read the dissenting opinion they lost? Here's why. Justice Kagan wrote one of the dissenting opinions related to immigrants. And what they're doing is they're telling lawyers and they're telling lower federal judges how they need to look at issues to relitigate the same issue that they just decided. That's why you have to read the dissenting opinions. It's insane. Anyway, two decisions came down from the Supreme Court this week, and both of them were related to immigration victories. And they are related to temporary protected status, meaning you don't get to America, you're standing in Mexico, but you have temporary protected status, so you can't, we want to claim asylum to be in your country. This is all this crap that happened under Obama over the last 10 and 15 years. Anyway, the Supreme Court said that if you're not in America, that you don't have temporary protected status, you can't stay, you got to get out. So that's a victory for us. That's a victory for us. And the other one was related to Haitian and Syrian nationals in the United States who claimed temporary protected status, that they did not receive judicial relief, postponing their revocation of their status while they challenged the Trump's administration efforts to revoke them in court. So guess what, folks? Load up the planes, round them all up, and fly them out of here before the 4th of July so they can't vote in the elections in the fall, because out in California, you don't have to be a citizen. They'll let anybody vote. So get them out of here. So that was good news for President Trump this week. He got two victories. And as of this broadcast, the big one we're waiting on is the birther citizenship opinion. If we win that one, we are gold. I'm not sure we're going to get that one. But anyway, that was two big victories for the Supreme Court this week that came down. Very happy about those. There was one other decision that was decided by the Supreme Court this week that I want to mention for just a second. And it related to firearms and the Second Amendment. And this is related to a case that originated out of Hawaii and the Ninth Circuit. And the issue was, and is, related to you are not supposed to bring a gun onto someone's property or into a business without getting their permission. In this country, you are allowed to carry a gun if it's a concealed weapon, unless you're in some states. I think in Texas, you can walk around with a gun on your hip. I think. I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure about that. Anyway, the Supreme Court ruled that you did not have to get permission to come onto someone else's property or come into a business and ask to have a concealed weapon on your person. So here again, the Supreme Court is doing God's work for us, and they have sanity up there in their decision making. We are so fortunate that the Supreme Court is doing the right things right now. And here's something I want you to understand. Whether you know it or not, this election, even though it's an off-year election, it's not a presidential election. If they get the Senate back, they are going to pack the Supreme Court. They've already said it. They're going to get whatever numbers they need because they want to overdo everything that's been done about Roe versus Wade, all these decisions. The Supreme Court are true believers. They are not strict constructionists. The Republicans in the Senate are driving me insane right now. As much as I believe in the Constitution, I really believe we've got to do away with the filibuster rule about some issues, because if the Democrats get back in control, I can assure you, you can take this home and you can bet the bank on it. They are true believers. They will do away with the filibuster rule. They will pack the Supreme Court, and they will impeach President Donald J. Trump as soon as I'm sitting here. Okay, I'm on my soapbox a little bit. They're looking at me in the studio like I'm preaching from a pulpit. And maybe I am. I'm kind of excited today. All right, so that's 3 Supreme Court decisions that came down, and it's all good stuff for us. Next thing I want to talk about today, all right, the birthright citizenship case. I expect that decision probably to come down on June 30, which is traditionally the last day of the Supreme Court. If we win the birthright citizenship ruling, we need to all chip in money so that they can load up the planes and get them out of here. What a day it will be if we win that decision. I'm not very optimistic. I'm just saying there is a chance it could happen. And if it does, we all need to be willing to contribute to that decision. Okay. The next thing that was in the news this week that I want to get to, because we had our interview the first hour, there was a senator this week. Are you ready for this? Oh, let me back up just a second. Okay. Senator Bernie Sanders came out in the last 2 weeks, and he is now proposing a 5% wealth tax on billionaires in America. That's 5% of their net worth every year to give to everybody else. Here's the bad news. If you tax all the billionaires in America 5%, it would not do one thing to the bottom line of the federal budget. And here is the sad part, and here's what I'm going to tell you that you will not hear from mainstream media, and here is why. Most of our federal budget is already outlined, meaning you have to fund Social Security, you have to fund Medicare, you have to fund Medicaid, you have to fund the defense. All these are just line items that are non-negotiables that they can't even change. And so here is what has got to happen. Everybody is going to have to take a haircut off of their budget. Every department in the federal government is going to have to take a haircut for probably 10 years, and then we can get back to reality, okay? And here's why this is really important. If you'll remember about 2 weeks ago, I told you there's a story in the press, and it was in the news again this last week. Social Security is reportedly going to run dry in 2032, meaning that they will roughly can only pay out, I think it's like 75 cents on the dollar for every dollar you're entitled to. If they do not change this before 2032, Social Security, as we know it, runs dry. They have kicked the can down the road long enough, and they're going to have to fix it. If you've ever listened to Susie Orman, she is a wonderful broadcaster, and she's into financial news. She's brilliant. I was listening to her this week. Susie Orman is projecting that, yes, they will fix Social Security. I am not so optimistic about that. We can't fix the big issues because we're fighting over a bunch of crazy nonsense up there. So everybody needs to be aware, just because somebody's a billionaire, you can't tax them to fix all the problems in the world. And here's another thing. Do you understand that most people that are billionaires do not have what we call W-2 income? They have investment income. Do you know Mark Zuckerberg, Facebook? Do you know he pays himself $1 a year? He's no different than Steve Jobs. He's no different than Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos, any of these people that are ultra wealthy. Warren Buffett, they don't draw salaries like we do, okay? Their money comes from investment. They can borrow money against their stocks. Their money comes from different sources of revenue. So if you taxed them all to death, it would not solve one thing to the national debt. It just makes you sound better on TV to get votes. All right, next story I really want to talk about, and here we go. Minimum wage would go to $25 under a new proposal. Minimum wage would go to $25 an hour under a new proposal from a Democratic senator. Senator Chris Murphy of Connecticut, who's kind of goofy if you watch his Twitter handle, introduced legislation Thursday that would raise the minimum wage through a phased-out process to eventually $25. The Washington Post was the first to report this bill. There's already a piece of legislation in the House. Democrats need to offer solutions that are as big as the problems facing America, according to Senator Murphy in his interview. Quote, "The way you solve people's basic economic problem, not having enough money, is to pay the bills, is by making a minimum wage to be a living wage. The Living Wage Act would incrementally increase minimum wage. Its current level is $7.25 to $12 an hour, depending on the state. You would have 6 years to get your state up to $25 an hour. Smaller businesses would be given a 13-year to adjust. Currently, 34 states in our country or territories have minimum wages above the federal rate of $7.25 an hour, according to some national statistics. Now, Alabama, Louisiana, Mississippi, South Carolina, and Tennessee have adopted a minimum wage, but we're $7.25. Now, here's where I'm going to stop for a second and get on my little tangent about minimum wage. Minimum wage was never designed to be a living wage to support a family of 4. Minimum wage was designed to get your foot in the door for a job. McDonald's, Arby's, Taco Bell. It was never designed to feed your family of 4 working at McDonald's. And why is $25 the number? Why not make it $75 an hour? Who says 25 is the number? You're telling me somebody that works at McDonald's flipping hamburgers should make $25 an hour that's in high school? No. If you've ever run a business, let me tell you something. Do you know that Arby's are closing around Birmingham? Do you know why? If I have to pay my people more money, that means I have to offset my budget. Whatever the cost is for the food, whatever the cost is for the rent, whatever the cost is for the electricity, whatever the cost is for the wages, all gets factored in to what you pay for your food at a fast food restaurant. So if that happens and you can't make it, you go out of business. Do you know that most people that are in Washington, D.C. have never made a payroll, have never run a business? And the business that they run, which is our government, well, let me tell you something. If they ran their business the way I ran my business, I would be bankrupt because we're bankrupt as a country. They don't know any better. Minimum wage was never designed to feed a family of 4. I'm sorry. It's just not that way. Minimum wage was designed to get your foot in the door so that maybe you'll go do better in your life and in your career. Okay, I had to get on that tangent. I'm sorry. It grinds me so bad that 25 is the number now. Why not $35 an hour? Why not $40 an hour? Well, I mean, why is it 25? Do you know my first job in 1987? I made $3.35 an hour. And I also made a lot of tips, and I made a whole lot more in tips than I did at $3.35 an hour. Okay, I'm going to get off my little tangent. They're looking at me in the studio like I've lost my mind today. No, I'm not. I'm very happy. I really am. Okay, this next story is really great, and it's a state legal story. And if you know, I talk so much about Huntsville. I love Huntsville. Huntsville was in the news this last week. Huntsville has so much to offer, so much to be proud of. It has been named the best place to live in the United States. It tops the list of places to live for factors such as economics, transportation, health, safety, real estate. Huntsville has so much to offer. I really wish I had started my career up there and stayed up there. Huntsville is exploding because of the job market. They have great pay. They have wonderful homes. They have so much technology. They have aerospace, engineering, technology, NASA, the Redstone Arsenal, the FBI buildings, on and on and on. We're going to go to break. They're cutting me off. We'll be back for the final segment of Legal Lowdown. Stay with us.
You're listening to The Legal Lowdown with your lawyer, Joe Ingram. If you need confidential legal help off air, reach out to Joe at joeingramlaw.com. Stay tuned for more. Joe will be right back after this break for news and weather.
Flat Fee Real Estate of Birmingham. What sets us apart from other real estate brokerages? Flat Fee Real Estate of Birmingham is a full-service real estate brokerage that can significantly reduce the amount you pay to sell your home. There are no high commission fees here. Our brokerage was established right here in Birmingham over 10 years ago, and they remain locally owned and operated. Here you will find agents with over 50 years of combined service and experience, and with excellent performance, whether listing or buying with us. We are there with you every step of the way so you feel confident you've made the right decision when it comes to your home. Give us a call today, Flat Fee Real Estate of Birmingham.
You're listening to The Legal Lowdown with Joe Ingram. Joe is a 20-year veteran of the Alabama courts specializing in criminal defense and family law. If you need a private legal consultation, email Joe at joeingramlaw.com. And now, welcome back to The Legal Lowdown with Joe Ingram.
All right, we're back for the final segment of the week of The Legal Lowdown with Joe Ingram, your Alabama lawyer on WERC 105 in Birmingham, WBHP up in Huntsville, and WRTR in Tuscaloosa. I was on a little tangent about minimum wage, and just some final food for thought here. Did you know that the highest minimum wage right now is in the District of Columbia, and it's currently $17.95 an hour? So where they make the sausage, if you will, meaning the bills, it costs more to make the bills than anywhere else in the country. Go figure. Isn't that kind of funny? I do. I find that funny. Okay. So I want to talk for just a minute. We are about to celebrate the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence, July the 4th. The Democrats are not happy about wanting you to celebrate July the 4th, but they are going to be sadly surprised because more people are excited about it than you realize. They really are. So I want to talk just a minute about how we got where we are, where we're going, and why this is so important to all of us as Americans. We need to remember how we got here from our ancestors who fought for why we are the most privileged people on this earth. July the 4th, 1776 is the day that the Continental Congress formally adopted the Declaration of Independence. When they approved this document, 13 American colonies that had severed from the political ties of Great Britain and King George III had decided that we were going to be an independent nation, the United States of America, American exceptionalism. Understanding our background, the document, and what our forefathers fought for are central to being an American in history and why this means so much to me. The background of why independence. By 1776, the colonies had been actively fighting with the British through the Revolutionary War for over years. Tension had boiled due to British politics, to taxation without representation. We had the Boston Tea Party, the harsh enforcement of imperial rule of a king, George III. A growing number of colonists had decided that they were protesting British laws, desiring to be separated. So they created the document of the Declaration of Independence. A committee was formed to draft a statement explaining why the colonies wanted to break away from the British. Thomas Jefferson did most of the writing. It outlined two main themes or principles: the philosophy of a government, which asserts that all people are created equal and fundamental and rights to life and liberty and the pursuit of happiness. That gets you right there. That government derives their power from the consent of the governed people, and they have the right to alter or abolish tyrannical government or rule. And two, grievances. It lists a series of complaints against King George III to justify our separation from the rest of the world or Europe. And also John J. Hamilton and Madison wrote the Federalist Papers at this time anonymously in the papers, trying to discuss why we needed to create a new national government. The timeline. A key detail is that Congress actually voted in favor of declaring independence on July the 2nd, 1776. However, 2 days were spent having to rewrite some of the language. So on July the 4th, the final text was formally adopted by the Congress, making it the day printed on the original of the Declaration of Independence. And the date the nation chose to celebrate its birthday is July the 4th every year. And my grandfather was born on July the 4th, not 1776. My grandfather was born in 1915. Anyway. And last but least, legacy. Declaring independence allowed the United States to seek official military and financial alliances with foreign countries, most notably France was one of our crucial partners from the war. And so as we celebrate July the 4th this next week in our independence, it'll be marked with parades, fireworks, family gatherings, all kind of events in Washington, D.C. And if you are an American, you should be so thankful that you live in the greatest democracy that has ever been created on this earth next to the Roman Empire. Man, that means a lot to me. Okay, so if you're listening to the Legal Lowdown, we had a great interview the first hour. Dr. Paul of Focus on the Family. If you missed that interview, you need to go back and listen to it. That was phenomenal stuff. And so we went right to the interview. And so I want to back up and I want to finish a little bit of information that we've been talking about the last couple of weeks. And I'm not going to bore you. If you listen to our program, I know this is getting through because we get feedback from you, from our audience on the stuff that we're talking about. And so one of the things I really want to talk about today that we've been working on ourself, our growth, being the best version of ourselves that I've challenged you to be with me through the rest of the year, that I work on with my clients every day that are in a divorce case or in a criminal case. And this next conversation we're going to talk about, this next material is really good stuff. I have to go read lots of books to deal with my clients because not only am I a lawyer, in some ways I'm a counselor helping them deal with their situations every day. And so this next little bit of information I want to talk about, I have found so intriguing the last week, the stuff I've been working on reading for some information that I'm going to put together hopefully soon. Okay, so what I want you to focus on here. There is a book called How to Restart Life Again. This is a great book for those that are just overcoming a divorce or have to overcome a trauma in their life. How do you restart your life again? I get asked this question a lot. In fact, I got asked this very question twice this week. First and foremost, you have to acknowledge and accept where you are, and you can't fight the facts. You have to accept reality where you are. You have to accept reality. Told someone the other day, now that you're divorced, take a serious look in the mirror, do some soul searching, do some self-study, look at the mistakes you've made from the divorce, from your marriage, what you're willing to accept, what you want to change, what you want to focus. Second, you have to let go of the past. You have to let go of the grudges. These are not just buzzwords because they trigger old pain that you're going to carry from your marriage into your new relationship. Sometimes you have to come down off the cross, forgive yourself so that you can move forward. And when I talk about letting go, it doesn't mean that if you were hurt or if you were harmed, that it didn't happen to you. All it means is that you let go to let yourself heal so that you can move forward and not let somebody else rent space in your head. Okay? And that happens. You need to sit down. You need to write out a real plan for the next chapter of your life of what you want it to be and not be. For those of you that have tried to have the biggest house, the most expensive foreign car, a lake house, a boat, a jet ski, trips that you couldn't afford, clothes that you can't own and afford, you're trying to keep up with the Joneses in town. Maybe it's time to reassess after that divorce. You need a simpler life. You need to sit down. You need to write a plan of negotiables and non-negotiables of what you will accept and what you will not accept as your life moves forward for you. And you need to work on this plan for the next 6 to 12 months as you move forward before you go get involved with anybody else. You do not want to carry the baggage of your past divorce or your past relationship into your new relationship, or you will repeat the same mistakes again. And yes, I see this all the time. Simplify your environment. Become a minimalist. If you have clothes in your closet that you have not worn in a year, guess what? there is a really good chance you're not going to wear them. If you came and saw my closet, you would think I'm a homeless person. I have a minimal set of clothes. I have 6 suits, maybe 10 dress shirts. I have 5 pair of dress shoes. I mean, what I own, I wear. And when I get tired of wearing it, I get rid of it, give it to a home, and go buy something new. So maybe you need to minimalize your life. And here's something else that you've got to change as you move forward in your journey. You got to clean up your house. You got to start making your bed every morning, because when you get home, you'll be glad that you made your bed. You actually accomplished something. You have to be organized in your life. I did a divorce recently, and there were pictures of the house, and it was a wreck. And I told my client, I said, do you really like it like this? And they said, no. They said, I'd always been organized and tidy, but when I got married, this is how we lived. Now that they're divorced, the person sent me a picture the other day. They said, see my house, see how neat it is, see how clean it is. Guess what? There are actual statistics. Those that make their bed, those that have organized lives, tend to be better at solving their problems, controlling their debts, and they are more likely to be millionaires. If you have furniture that you can relate to your spouse, maybe it's a recliner, maybe throw out the recliner if it makes you feel bad about them. Maybe you need to start some new habits. Maybe you need to start, journaling, writing your thoughts down. If you weren't getting enough sleep, if you weren't getting enough exercise, if you weren't reading material for self-help, all these things, small little habits that you make a commitment to do over 6 to 12 months will make you a better person as you move into the next phase of your life. The next one you've heard me say for the last 2 weeks, this is really important. You have to surround yourself with good people. You have to surround yourself with positive people, and you have to surround yourself with people with good energy, those that don't suck the life out of you. You need people that inspire you, and you need to have a circle of friends that are smarter than you. I've told you before, if your circle of friends and you feel like you're the smartest person in the room, you are in the wrong room. You need to go find a new group of people. Spend time with people that inspire you. In today's world, there are a couple people that I follow. Jamie Dimon, David Goggins. He's a former Navy SEAL. These are what I call life coaches. These are the people that I read, and they inspire me to be better. And maybe, and please don't laugh when I say this, maybe in some small way, this program is developing that for you in your life. That is really the goal. If I can help you become a better person in your journey in some small positive way, then that is worth what we're doing here. I really mean that. And I want you to walk into the next part of your life without any fears. Most importantly, consistent. Consistent beats perfection every time. Consistency and discipline beats perfection every single time. You don't have to be perfect. If you don't exercise, say, Joe, I can't go out and run 4 miles today. Well, don't. Go out and run 1 mile. You'll feel better when you do that 1 mile. Just do the 1 mile. Small, incremental steps. Consistency and discipline. Consistency, discipline. Drink lots of water. Take vitamins. Take supplements. Spend time to becoming the best version of yourself. I cannot emphasize that, how important this is. And all of this is in the book of how to restart your life again. It is good stuff. I gave that book to somebody today that was in my office. See how good this information is. The second piece of information I'd like to discuss with you today, and this goes for all of my clients that go through a divorce or for whatever reason, Maybe they were the housewife, maybe they were the stay-at-home mom, or maybe they were the father and they never really got really good financial advice. They don't have a really good background. There are 8 topics that I see for people that have just gone through a divorce. And these are really crucial. These are going to change the next part of how you come out of this. 8 topics that everyone should be educated on. First, money. I love Dave Ramsey. Dave Ramsey is the greatest about Financial Peace University. You have to understand what an asset is. Do you know what the greatest asset is for the most average person in America? It is your salary. That is your greatest asset. Why would you give away all your salary before you get home every 2 weeks? You have to learn to start paying yourself before you pay everybody else when you get home with your paycheck. Okay? So everybody needs financial education. Next thing, you need to learn how to budget. You need to learn how to invest. You need to understand what compounding interest means. You need to understand taxes if you run a business. And you need to learn how to manage your debt. The second thing that everyone in this world needs to learn and understand is the psychology of people. And yes, I'm sorry, folks, you have to be able to understand behavior, biases, motivations, habits. This will serve you well in business. It will help you understand if you understand psychology. Next is communication. None of us are great orators, and if you listen to this show, you know I'm not that great orator, but we all need to develop public speaking skills. You need to be able to learn to tell a story. You need to be able to learn to write. You need to be able to learn to negotiate. You need to be able to learn to be a communicator. And most importantly, you need to learn how to shut your mouth and listen to your spouse. Those go without repeating. For men, just shut up and listen to your wife. They're smarter than you. I'm sorry, dude. They are. Next one is something that's coming for all of us. Artificial intelligence is coming whether you like it or no. Whether you like it or know it, folks, you must adapt, accept it, and overcome. Understand what the fundamentals of AI are, and it's not all that bad. Jeff Bezos made a comment 2 weeks ago. Did you know that he said artificial intelligence is not going to put people out of work? We're not going to have enough people to deal with artificial intelligence. It's just learning how to adapt to the technology. That's all it is. So that should make you feel better. And as far as investing goes, you don't have to really understand the stock market to be successful. Warren Buffett, who created Berkshire Hathaway, billionaire, he is so basic. He said, just put your money in the S&P. Don't worry about it. Let the compounding interest do the real work. And in 30 years, you're going to be fine. Just find somebody that you trust as a financial advisor, whether it be stocks, mutual funds, long-term investing. Do not get upset about the stock price every day, what the stock market says. Over the long haul, you're going to be better off if you invest in the stock market rather than if you do not. You need to invest your money, okay? All right. This is good stuff. Next, if you are in business, whether you sell a tangible product or you sell a service, you have to be able to solve a problem for your customer. Whether you're a service injury or you're selling Apple iPhones, you must learn how to sell yourself. You must learn how to market. You have to understand who your customer is. And if you don't understand your customer and your product, you're going to be out of a job really fast. And here is the only exception to that rule, to the best of my knowledge. Steve Jobs and Apple. Steve Jobs didn't go out and research people that needed the iPhone. Steve Jobs is the only person I know that said, this is what the people need, when he created the iPod for replacing the Walkman. Steve Jobs is the exception to the rule. If you're in business, you have to know what your customer wants, what your customer needs, and you have to know who your customer is. And folks, in the legal business, this is so important. If you do not have systems in place, you are losing to your competition. What I mean by that is, we have to have intake specialists now. We have people that just answer the phone, take the calls, do workups. Then who's going to prepare the engagement letter? Who's going to get the file to the lawyer? Is the paralegal going to draft the material? You have to have all these systems in place to run a business, to run a law practice, to run whatever it is that you run. If you don't, you're going to lose to your competition every time now. And something that's coming down the pike for law firms is we are going to have serious consolidation. It's going to happen. There are going to be some big plaintiff firms that are going to merge over the next 5 to 10 years. It's just a fact of life. All right. And one of my last and favorite things I love to talk about, you have to be healthy. You have to take care of your body. As last time I checked, you only have one time. For me, I take cold showers now because of my running. I'm told it's the equivalent of ice baths. It's good for your muscles. It's good for your healing, things of that nature. Anyway, so this has been a good show. We always want to thank our sponsors, Flat Fee Real Estate of Birmingham, and we want to thank Shelby Fence Company as well. If you need a fence in the greater Birmingham area, Shelby Fence Company is the name to know. And if you need a real estate agent or a broker, Flat Fee Real Estate of Birmingham is the best at what they do. Flat Fee Real Estate of Birmingham is the name to know if you need a realtor as well. As far as my parting word today, it comes from one of my inspirations, David Goggins, Navy SEAL. I'd love to run with him one day in the desert. This is a quote from him the other day. You say you're going to die, never even trying to reach your full potential. And how's that going to feel? You're probably in the bed right now. You're probably an underachiever. You're probably somebody who doesn't want to do anything with your life. Maybe you're happy exactly where you are in life. Maybe you don't have the determination to be somebody better than you, but don't be mad when you're laying there in your bed and you're in your hospital and you're 70, 80, 90 years old, and you're sitting there thinking because you didn't do anything, you're always going to feel empty inside. So go take a chance and go do it. Go be successful in whatever you do, okay? Anyway, go celebrate the 4th of July. Have a great holiday. Thank you for listening to our program. It's been an honor and a privilege to be with you today. If you missed the first hour interview with Dr. Paul, focus on the family. I've told you before, I don't advocate divorce, but I'm there if you need it, and I try to save marriages if I can. Have a good week. God bless you. Goodbye.
Thanks for tuning in to the Legal Lowdown with your lawyer, Joe Ingram of Joe Ingram Law. Don't forget to follow Joe's Legal Lowdown podcast on iHeart. If you need a private legal consultation, reach out to Joe on his website, joeingramlaw.com. Tune in again next Saturday for the Legal Lowdown with Joe Ingram. No representation is made that the quality of legal services to be performed is greater than the quality of legal services performed by any other lawyer.